Hello everyone on YouTube, this is Finalukia Guardian, and today I'm going to be making some predictions for the Canon Rebel SL2, the successor to the Canon Rebel SL1. And first I'm going to discuss what I think should be included, and then what I think will be included. So let's start with what should be included. Let's start with the image sensor. I think the image sensor should be the 24 megapixel sensor that's in the Canon 77D and Canon Rebel T7i. That's a pretty good sensor. 24 megapixels is proven to be more than enough on the 80D and 77D and T7i. Most lenses, of course, are not going to be able to take advantage of 24 megapixels yet. There just simply aren't that many sharp lenses out there that can take advantage of the full 24 megapixels. Really, there are no lenses out there who could actually get 18 megapixels of resolution out of this 18 megapixel APS-C size sensor. This particular STM lens actually only gets 9 perceptual megapixels off of the Canon 100D sensor slash SL1. The 100D is what it's called over in Europe, for those who are not aware. Now let's get on to the let us now get on to the next thing. The battery that it should use should be the Canon Rebel SL1's battery slash EOS M battery. Just use the same battery. This battery is proven very reliable. Excuse me. Let me just get this thing back in there. Hold on, do I have it? Oops. I'm trying to stick it in backwards. My mistake. Alright. And of course, I think it should also have a single SD card slot. Dual SD card slots would be nice, but yeah, this SanDisk card that I have in there, even if it was put in the bottom again, just like it was in the SL1, that would be fine too. So I think they should just stick with one SD card slot and keep it mounted in the bottom of the camera with the battery. That would be more than appropriate for most users like myself who are just not professionals, but maybe enthusiasts is the right word. Alright, now let's get on to the lens that it should be bundled with, I think. I think it should be bundled with the standard 18 to 55mm kit lens, maybe the next generation of STM lens. And, yeah, this lens has proven plenty for video, and for stills, it's not the sharpest lens. It only gets 9 perceptual megapixels off of this thing's 18 megapixel sensor, but that's more than enough, because the most I ever see myself printing is 8 by 11 inch prints, and 6x9s for portrait-oriented stuff, so I'm not too worried about that that lens lacking any sharpness. It's good enough for me. And alright, let's get on to the next thing. What processor do I think it should have? I think it should have the Digic 7 processor. Digic 6 would be okay, because we've seen from the 80D that processor is more than capable of producing very good video and very good photos. But Digic 7 would be better, and this T7i and the 77D both have it. So the modern Rebels are rocking the Digic 7 processor. And it would only make sense that they put the Digic 7 in the new body as well, because this, of course, is a enthusiast consumer body. Alright. Now, what's next? Alright, let's get on to the actual limits of what it could shoot. Here's what I think they should have. They should have a 6 frames per second burst rate on the SL2. The SL1, as you know, has a 4 frame per second burst rate. It was one less than the Rebel T5i, of which this thing accompanied. And that was, I think, to do with the smaller components that were inside of there. They were a little bit more brittle, and so they didn't want to put as much stress on them as they were putting on the T5i's, which could shoot 5 frames per second. So I think 1 frame per second less than the T7i and 77D will be what we'll get out of the SL2, which is fine. 6 frames per second is more than plenty, I think. Now let's get on to the video. I think, like the T7i and 77D, it will do 1080p at 60 frames per second, and I'm almost certain, like 95% certain, that the Canon Rebel SL2 will not have any 4K at all. It'll just be a 1080p camera, period. Which is fine. I don't use 4K at all. I have no cameras that shoot 4K. All my stuff is in a max of 1080p as of right now. Maybe one day I'll upgrade to 4K, but it took me until 2016 to finally get on the 1080p bandwagon. I just never saw the need to do it until then. But now I'm on board, and 1080p is great. Alright, so now let's get on to the accessories that I think will, well, not accessories, but the features of, I guess what I'll call the nice-to-have features, but really are kind of quasi-necessary. Let's go on with the mic jack. I think it should have a mic jack. There's a mic jack on the SL1. It doesn't make sense for them to take it away on the SL2. And of course, video I think will be a little bit better. Video battery life will be a bit better because of the better processor. And of course, most people are just going to stick a Rode Go mic up here on the top, plug it into the side, just like they do with the SL1, and they'll shoot video that way. I think they should not put a headphone jack in there. People are simply just not going to monitor their audio by listening to it on the SL1. I've never seen anyone do that with any... well, I've seen people do it on some DSLRs, like the 80D, but even in the 80D that I've seen, the couple of people I've seen using it, it's rare. They don't have headphones on, listening to their audio coming into the camera. They just have a mic on top of the thing and a mic jack. They'll have the mic plugged into the mic jack, and that's it. They're not monitoring their audio. They just set it up, they think it's good, and that's it. So I don't think the headphone jack's needed for the SL2. The articulating screen. I don't think they should put an articulating screen on this because part of the SL1's appeal was that it was small and lightweight. This is actually even lighter than the Panasonic GH4, which is a mirrorless camera. This is a full DSLR camera. Now I hear some of you saying, but the Panasonic GH4 is a probe camera. It has weather sealing. It has a metal body. All valid points. That's true. It does have a metal body. It is weather sealed. It's a little bit heavier. It's nice to actually have a DSLR that's lighter than a GH4 that actually has an optical viewfinder that doesn't drain the battery at all. So you can have your camera permanently switched on, and then when you are not using it, it just goes into sleep mode and is simply waiting for you to push the button to turn back on. With the GH4, you always had a little bit of battery draining every time you turned it on and left it on, even with just the viewfinder set on. So that was a plus of the SL1. Now I understand mirrorless camera batteries have gotten a lot better, and mirrorless can go into sort of a sleep mode as well, where they're just constantly using an infrared sensor back here to try and sense whether or not your eyes are up to the viewfinder. But a lot of those cameras still have delays when you put your eye up to the viewfinder, and you can miss shots because of that. And in addition, they also drain the battery. Not quite as much as just leaving the screen on, but they still drain it. This hardly drains any power at all. It's just waiting for you to press this button, which uses a lot less power than having an infrared sensor constantly trying to sense whether or not your face is pressed up against the viewfinder. Alright, and is there anything else that I'm predicting? I already mentioned no weather sealing, so yeah, that's what I think it should be. Alright, so now here's what my predictions as far as what actually Canon is going to do. I think for the Canon SL2, they're going to have the 24 megapixel sensor from the Canon 77D. I think they are going to have the Digic 7 processor from the 77D and T7i. I think they are going to have no weather sealing. I think they're going to have one SDXC UHS-1 card slot. They are going to use the same EOS M series battery that they used in the SL1. So if you already have an SL1 and have a bunch of batteries, you're actually going to be in luck because you're not going to be forced to throw out all your batteries if you had a T5i and then upgraded to the T6i or T7i. I think it will shoot 6 frames per second, one less than the T7i. It will have no articulating screen. It will have a mic jack. It will have no headphone jack. It'll shoot 1080p at 60 frames per second. It will not shoot 4K so as not to compete with the 5D Mark IV and the upcoming 90D. And of course the what's that camera? Yeah, the 1DX Mark II. That's what I'm thinking of. So, yeah, that pretty much completes my predictions as to what this camera will have, the successor to the SL1. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a good day. Take care. Peace.